We are back in the tent today with Lecole. I'm going to tell a little story about my friend Lecole here. So Lecole was in the Founder Institute class before I joined, class 1 of Founder Institute here in Valley. And we didn't meet officially there, but we would keep bumping into each other at events. And then finally I was like, so, you want to carpool or something? I don't know. We kept bumping into each other. And so that was almost 4 years ago. And along the way, I've seen Lecole ride the roller coaster ride of a startup, raising money, building a product, a bunch of different things. So first of all, what's come of it is that we're really good friends, and you've been gracious enough to let us set up the tent in your office. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And also, I've learned a lot from your experience, and I think a lot of people should learn from it. So, Lecole, first of all, thank you very much. It's an honor and a pleasure to have you on the show. Tell us a little bit, who's Lecole? What have you built? And then we're going to tell some really, really awesome stories today. So, welcome.
Thank you. My name is Lecole, CEO of Skydera. I came out of the navigation space, spent about 11, 12 years at a company called TomTom. Well, a company that I acquired called TeleAtlas.
Yeah.
I managed the nationwide traffic management system for North America. So all the traffic that comes into any navigation system, to Google, to Yahoo, to anywhere, we built all that.
Awesome.
Yeah, and so decided that I wanted to do something different. So after a couple of years, I started Skydera. I've been doing it now for about 5 years, and it's been, like you said, a roller coaster ride. So Skydera is a management platform, and originally we were planning on doing something for startups. That was the goal, was to make it easy for startups to launch their service and get it going and keep it up and running, because there's a lot of tools for companies who have a lot of money.
Yeah.
There's not that many tools for companies that don't have that much money.
Yep.
And so we wanted to kind of target that area. We worked with a partner company, and they kind of drug us over to the enterprise side a little bit too soon, which caused us a lot of pain and grief. And then we raised some money. Thank you.
Welcome.
That was an interesting experience. Enterprise company trying to raise money when all the social media companies
when it wasn't sexy.
When it was not sexy. Exactly. It was everything but sexy.
Yep.
And we were told that by many VCs. I've been up and down Sand Hill Road.
Okay, so let's talk about that. So you finished Founder Institute,
yes,
which again is an incubator accelerator program. Awesome mentors, Aaron Patzer, Phil Levin.
Awesome.
Really a way to really constantly evolve and change your company over a period of 4 months. And then you also pitched at the Founder Showcase, which is the event that we had. And so through that, you met some advisors, some investors.
Some advisors, some mentors, some investors.
Mentors, exactly. And so, that obviously kind of connected you to the right people. But then tell us, after that, how many investors did you pitch? And let's talk about what happened, because it is really important to understand that along the way, you and I have had these calls where you're like, I've pitched another investor, we've got someone committed, this and that, and then like 2 weeks later, it was like something else. So let's talk about that specifically, because I think it's a really, really important point of what you've been through in the last 4 years and what happened just this week.
Sure. So I've had varying success with co-founders. That was interesting. So after the Founder Showcase, we ended up raising $500,000. We had committed 1.5 million at the time. Through varying issues during the closing, we lost a couple of investors. The raise was decreased down to $500,000. So basically, what happened was I didn't have a co-founder at the time. Everyone was telling me I needed a co-founder, and I spent a lot of time in corporate on the business and the technical side. I used to be a VP of engineering, used to be head of director.
Which makes you really kind of a unicorn.
Yeah.
You're very technical.
I'm very technical.
Very social, and you can sell and talk.
Well, I've also been at the kind of highest level on the business and sales side.
And rare quality to have, and very important.
I've done negotiations with Google, with Microsoft, with Yahoo, with everyone you can think of. I've done negotiations with, and so we finished the seed round, $500,000. I was the only person in the company, just me. So it's kind of good. So that was interesting. But we got 3 investors, 2 strategics, and 1 super angel out of Europe. Adele told me, and everyone else told me, keep the strategic money out of the seed round. And we had committed a large large VC in Silicon Valley also.
Yeah.
And
remember that talk?
Yes. And that fell apart. The VC is amazing guy. I still talk to him every now and then. He's provided tons of help, but that was it.
Yeah.
And so after we ended up closing, our European VC and also one of our strategics was saying, you need to hire, you need to hire, you need to hire. And at the time, I'm like, okay, I need to listen to what my VCs say. So I went out and I hired 9 people. And I had $500,000 in the bank. And we went from kind of a $10K a month run rate to like a $60K a month run rate. Almost overnight.
That's your monthly burn.
My monthly burn, almost overnight. And at $500,000, that doesn't last too long.
Nope.
And so we promptly ran out of money. And with so before we ran out of money, we started to do our Series A. And I went up and down Sound Road. Everyone loved it. We just closed the seed round, and I had maybe 90 meetings the first.
90
meetings the first time. Often having 3 or 4 meetings on the same day on the same street.
Yeah.
And this was over the course of like 2 weeks.
So let's talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
Getting 90 meetings, either through hustling or introductions or setting up and coordinating, is literally 2 jobs.
It's 2 jobs, yeah. On top of running the business.
On top of running the business. Yes. So then actually managing to preparing the presentations and getting ready and doing a little research and connecting the dots is another job.
Well, you got to do research on every single person you talk to.
Every person, right?
And what they've done and how they've done it.
How it correlates and why this might be relevant. Then actually going out and pitching means you actually literally shut down everything else that you're doing.
For about a month.
For about a month. And you're running around and pitching these investors. Now.
And each one takes about 3 hours per meeting,
Travel, going, coming, whatever. So then, I remember right on university, we were standing outside, and you were saying that you had a large chunk of a $10 million round.
Half
of the $10 million round.
We had half committed. Hard committed.
Hard committed. Meaning that someone had said, I am going to put $5 million into this round, and you need to fill
Not just him, but his boss and his boss's boss.
So a multi-billion dollar
company. Yeah.
And so I was like, dude, Lecole is gonna
rocking it.
Rocking it, and you and I talked about like what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And so then tell us what happened, because as sad as it is, kind of funny.
Yeah, it's actually very funny. So I had actually you introduced me to that particular VC, and we're still.
I felt really good about it.
And we're still really good friends, and he still loves what we're doing, and I still talk to him like almost once a month. He randomly shows up at the office at all kind of times. So, but he's an awesome guy. We actually go out to drinks every now and then too.
I want to come.
Sure.
All right.
So I went through and we did the pitch to him. He loved it. And then we did the pitch to his investment board. And then they brought us back like 2 days later. And then we did another pitch to the investment board. And then we were going to go ahead. With big VCs or big company-based VCs, they don't like to lead.
Yeah, so it's a corporate
strategic. It was a strategic
corporate venture fund.
Corporate venture fund with several hundreds of millions of dollars under management.
Yeah, and so then what happened?
So then they go, we hard commit, just find the lead, and we're good to go.
Yeah. And
it was actually not just 5 million. It was actually up to 20 million. They would take half of anything. They're ready to go. So I set up on my second fundraising, and so that was like 60 meetings.
Part 2.
So that's 60 additional meetings.
Ladies and gentlemen, so just so you know, we're now talking about 150 meetings.
Yes.
You have someone committed up to $20 million.
Yep.
5. So all you need to do now is find 5
someone
more.
Who would
someone's going to say, I'm going to do the diligence and lead.
Yes.
And so in my eyes, I think of it. And
home run.
Home run, right?
Home run.
Like, I'm halfway there.
It was, yeah, it was. And so, so we went through, and every single time we get like great reception. And I've talked to almost all the big VCs in San Jose Road and San Francisco, and they all love me. They all love the presentation. They all love the company, but they would not step over the line. And so I got one VC that he was ready to go, and it turns out that one of my advisors was also he sat on the board. So a roundabout, they loved us as well. So we went through a lot of the work, went through the due diligence, and they were the VC we were going to select. It's a very good firm. I like the partner a lot. That's also like a big thing, is liking the partner. And he's like, well, this is great, but we don't want to do around with this corporate VC. And he goes, yeah, they're just a one and done. All these corporate VC guys are just one and done. And I'm like, okay, well, let's just start it at least. And he's like, find someone else.
Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is something I want to clarify. You have someone who's going to commit $5 million to you. Then you go to someone else to lead the deal, and they say, I'm not going to do this deal with this person. Other fund.
Yes.
Now, here you're sitting there and saying, wow, that's kind of interesting. Someone's willing to put $5 million into my business.
Yeah.
And someone else say, I won't do it if that person is that fund is involved.
Yeah.
And so, like, what's going through your mind? And then, like, how
fast my bank account is starting to drop? Yeah.
Because just again, to put this in perspective, you've spent a good 5, 6, 7, maybe 1,000 hours
about for the fundraising. Just fundraising.
Hours of running around, pitching, networking, confirming meetings,
and meeting after meeting. You meet with every single VC maybe 3 or 4 times before they make a decision. So this particular VC I met with 6 times. Yeah.
So over what span of time is this?
So for the Series A, I met with for the seed, I met with that particular VC, but he also wouldn't lead. I met with him 12 times over 3 months, and he was amazing. He helped with my presentation. Sure. He helped with making sure that everyone else was going to help close. Okay. And then with the Series A, I met with every single VC at least twice over the course of maybe 2 or 3 weeks. This particular VC that we got very far with, I met with him 8 times over the course of 5 months. Mm-hmm. And after that deal fell through, I met with him again about 6 months later, and he's like, let's do this again. Wow. And it's still,
okay.
Yeah.
So here I am constantly checking in with Lee and he's giving me updates. And again, that day on University Avenue, when you said we have this money committed, I was like, you know what, like that makes me feel really good. I made the introduction, there's something there. And again, to be honest, like at that point, I didn't even really understand what it is you do. You'd give me the simple version. And I just kind of connected the dots. I'm like, you know, this person would be interested. So then the next conversation we had was, I'm like, hey, Nicole, you know, did you raise that money? And literally you're like, to go along with Vivek's kind of theme, screw the VCs, forget this, I'm done with this. And I'm just going to focus on building my business and customers and revenue. Yep. And so literally you're like, I'm going to stop trying to raise money.
Yeah, I did that about 7 months ago.
7 months ago. That's right when I started kind of with this whole venture. Yeah. And I was like, okay. So again, you were kind of, you still have 2 or 3 people on the team.
Yeah.
And you didn't pivot, but you changed your strategy a little bit as far as customer acquisition and really creating a sales channel or pipeline for yourself.
I went back to our original vision, and that took quite a bit of time. It took a year to actually move us back into the direction where we can actually support a startup.
Okay.
As far as our product set, and then another 7 or 8 months to get to the point where we can actually produce a product for them.
Yeah. So at that time, did you have money in the bank, or what were you? Because I know for a fact, you know, we've we've addressed the Top Ramen diet.
Yes.
And I know specifically that in the corner in your office, there's 2 big boxes of Top Ramen noodles. So, you know, so here you go. You launch your company, you raise $500,000, you hire people, you think you're at $10 million, and then all of a sudden it's like at a carnival ride, straight down, free fall. You have no money, you haven't spent time on building your business and getting revenue coming in, so you literally had to backtrack, start from scratch, and
quite a bit.
Yeah. And so you know,
there were times where both the corporate account and my personal account were both negative.
Wow. So
Recently.
recently. Okay. So
Yeah.
then, about 2 or 3 months ago, I called you again. I'm like, so how are things? You're like, oh, I'm changing my strategy as
Yeah.
far as customer acquisition, and we have this potential deal that we're working on that could be quite significant.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
So you had gone back to your roots, business development, sales, and really
Yep.
just focusing on landing a significant,
deal.
that could give you some
Breathing
breathing
room.
room.
Yeah.
Because literally, you had given up on the idea of raising money and wasting completely.
Yeah. So people don't say it, but in Silicon Valley, it's very old boys club. Not in the sense of being bad or racist, but it's old boys club, and everyone knows each other.
Yeah.
And if they perceive that things are not going well in your company, nothing happens.
Nothing happens.
And so it was just a waste of my time, because I am 1 degree away from every single VC in Silicon Valley. Every single VC in San Francisco I can get to, not a problem. Getting meetings, super simple. Getting them over the line, very, very hard. And so I've talked to all these people, and they always give me the same advice. Make some money.
No, come back when you have traction.
Come back when you have
traction. When you have customers. Come back when you've done a deal, right?
Yes, yes.
So you actually did that yourself
Yeah.
while still working on the product.
Yes.
Now you've created kind of an umbrella brand with multiple products within your products. So different approach.
A little bit of a strategy as far as customer acquisition, because
Exactly.
our product was an extremely heavy enterprise product.
Tell us really quickly a little bit more details for our audience.
Sure.
What it is that your product does, and now you have the kind of ancillary products that are within the suite of Skydera products.
So if you think about IT, think about large corporate IT, keeping 50 or 500 or 5,000 servers running is quite difficult.
Yeah.
So coming from large enterprise IT, I built a tool that manages 500 to 5,000 to 10,000 servers, no problem. Not many startups have 5,000 servers.
Sure.
And so, so that was a big problem with traction. And going into a big company and say, hey, you have 5,000 servers, we have tools for you, not a problem. Going into a startup saying, hey, we have tools for you, and they say, I have 5 servers, we don't need you right now, was the biggest problem. And so what we decided to do is to go back to our roots and build tools for startups. Something that we would use as a small company to manage our stuff. And that include, like you were mentioning before, creating our umbrella brand, which is still Skydera, but creating targeted products that will help startups themselves. And
give me a couple examples, because we've talked about.
Sure. So Skydera as a product is a cloud management platform. It sits on top of Amazon, Rackspace, HP, GoGrid, and it helps you manage, monitor, maintain, and scale servers. One of the things that's interesting is that we do a lot of analytics and a lot of automation on the back end. A lot of our friends, now that I'm in startup land, obsess about analytics.
Yeah.
We do analytics on the back end side, where if the server is going to have issues or problems, but we never did it on the front end side. And taking the front end analytics and correlate them with the back end analytics, you can kind of see if your servers are profitable or not. And so we decided to kind of branch out and build some products that we can then merge together, like front-end analytics, customer acquisition, and customer tracking, and those type of things.
Yeah. So all useful tools that now are broken up. Ideally, you want to get someone interested in one or two products,
and then we can cross-promote.
As they grow.
Yeah, exactly. And as they grow up, and we've had situations where some very big companies in Silicon Valley today started out very close to us that we had an opportunity to help, but didn't have the facilities to help them at the time.
Okay, so let's fast forward to last week. I got a text from you saying that you've closed this deal, which gives you breathing room for a few months, maybe
for
almost a year. Almost
for
a year. So it's a significant deal.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden, what I would do, and I know you're going to do this too when the time is right. As you're going to bump into some of these 150 VCs that you pitch, they're going to say, hey, Lecole, how's it going? You know, what's the update? We just closed the deal. We don't need you. And so the funny part about it is it is this cat and mouse game, right?
It is.
And now let's call it that.
It's very emotional.
Emotional.
It's very emotional.
So now you've actually done what they've asked you to.
Yes.
And not to say that you don't need the money or to scale or to build a big business, but at the point, like you're like, you know what? maybe I don't need the money and I can build this a little bit slower, or at least you can get it to a point where it's not chasing 150 people. It's maybe now inbound saying, hey, Lecole, you know, we see what you've done. You've closed this deal. You've proven that you can sell this thing for a lot of money.
Yeah.
You've now also built these smaller components that are kind of lead gen for you.
Yes.
You know, how can we help?
Yeah.
Right? And so when the conversation changes...
And I get those emails almost every single month.
Okay.
But from Boston, which is kind of interesting.
Okay, that's weird.
Yeah.
But my point is that I see a lot of entrepreneurs who've raised money and who are raising, building good businesses. And one of them specifically, you know, he had raised $10 million. And then 2 weeks later, I see him at Specialties or Pete's or whatever. I'm like, hey, what's up, Ryan? He's like, oh, I'm just meeting with blah, blah, blah fund. I'm like, oh, you raised money? He's like, no.
Yeah.
I'm like, so then what he's like, I'm just, in case.
Yeah.
So now you're in this position, you have a little bit of, you're coming from a position of strength a little bit, and the tide is turning a little bit. Now, again, yes, with $10 million, you could build this business really quick and better, but at the same time, for $10 million, you'd be giving away a ton of equity, you'd have people breathing down your neck as far as board members,
all the time,
and maybe, we've talked about this, maybe you don't even need $10 million to build a business to make you comfortable in life, you know? And so this is the thing that we want to talk about, specifically for the Middle East. People always say, oh, there are no billion-dollar businesses in the Middle East. Okay, so you know what? Forget about that. How big of a company do you really need to build to love what you do, have enough money to do whatever you want to do, and to financially be set for life? And we talked about this number the other day, and it's not $1 billion.
No,
it's not even anywhere close.
It's
you know
like
what I mean?
5 to 15 million. That's all you really need.
So the funny part about that is that that's not a company that a VC would invest in.
They
would
actively
not.
avoid them. Yeah.
They actually avoid them because it's more headache than potentially worth the money, right?
Yeah.
But so what?
It costs them money. Actually,
it costs them money, exactly. So what we've been talking about is that economic development in the region, to build a business that can create livelihood for yourself, for your friends, for your employees, and your family, is just as important as building the next Facebook or Google or billion-dollar business.
But you can still kind of build the next Facebook and Google without having
someone.
Yeah, now you can.
You can. So here's the thing. Through this experience, and dealing with Adeo, he's always been kind of anti-VC. And you kind of validated to me that a lot of entrepreneurs waste a shit ton of time chasing investors, and it's kind of, I'm raising money from blah blah blah, and Dave and Sequoia, and it's a little bit of fluff and BS. But the reality is that sometimes you just gotta get down and dirty and just close and sell and get someone to write you a check for your product. Instead of wasting all this time running around chasing investors. So this has been kind of the lesson of the story. And we want to let people know that, you know what, yes, you raised $500,000 seed round, which kind of was the spark to get you going, but that money was gone. And so you had to figure out, reinvent yourself to then build a business again. So we wanted to have Lecole on the show because a lot of people feel like they have to raise money. They have to, raise a fund, go fundraising. And yes, it's important, but ultimately, it is still possible to do it with no money if your product speaks for itself. And so you are the living example. And so we're gonna give updates to our audience as far as how things are going here at Skydera. And maybe we can actually also connect you with some potential partners or companies in the Middle East that are doing relevant stuff or interesting stuff for you to connect. But the point is that I'm kind of proud of you, honestly. Like
it's a painful experience. It's an extremely painful experience.
You and I have talked about it many times along the way, but I want to just use this as an example that it's possible, and that we, I guess you and I are encouraging people to not spend 90% of the time chasing money, but at least balance it out a little bit.
But I think building something that is of value that someone will pay for is the goal, right? Building something that will be enough to fundraise is not necessarily the goal, because then what happens after you get $5 or $10 million? Now you have a board member or two on your board, and you have to be accountable to them, because now it's not you and your time, it's
them and their money.
Exactly, it's them and their money, and they take their money very seriously. Like I have a super angel out of Europe and a corporate VC, and they breathe down my neck constantly, and it's tough.
It's tough,
we raised $500,000. If you raise $5 million, it'll be even more tough.
Yeah.
And it's not about trying to conserve money. They want you to spend money as fast as possible. And so if you're spending money that's as fast as possible, you will spend every single dime you have as fast as you can. And that's really not what you should do. You should work on getting customers in and getting the product that they want. Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that I looked at about 7 or 8 months ago and said, you know, I know how to build products and I know how to sell products. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go out and I'm going to build a product that I can sell. Yeah. And that's what I had to do.
Awesome. Okay. So okay, so since we're now this was the story, and we forget about the board because it's really speaks volumes for what we're really trying to do. So then we do the old rule thing. What's your number one rule?
I think my number one rule is only spend what you have. You gotta budget, right?
Budget. I hate the B word, but
yeah, if you run your company like you run your life, like don't put things on credit cards.
Most people in the Middle East don't have credit cards, but okay.
Yeah, fine. But
different, but yeah.
It's don't spend money that you don't have. And VC money is money you don't have because it's really not your money. Yeah. No matter what people say or how shiny it is when they try to get you to take their money. Oh, you don't want to take their money if you don't have to.
If you don't have to, don't take the money.
And nowadays you don't have to. It doesn't cost $15 to $20 million to start a business nowadays.
Exactly.
I ran Skydera for a year on $100K out of my own personal money, and after we raised $500, I put in another 150.
Wow.
And that was, and I really didn't have to raise money in the first place if I went ahead and spent all my time focusing on
hiring those guys and
not hiring those guys
what they wanted to do.
Exactly.
Okay. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here. This is living proof, and again, it's possible to build a business and again create
an enterprise business. Enterprise business, which is extremely difficult.
Extremely difficult.
And extremely expensive.
Okay. All right. So again, Lecole, I want to thank you for everything, for being such a gracious host, and again, I love hearing updates from you. I love getting messages. Deal done. Check signed. It puts a smile on my face. So again, it's great to have had you on the show, and I want people to be inspired by Lecole and by what he's been able to do, really bootstrapping this thing from
twice.
Yeah, twice. So, ladies and gentlemen, thanks a lot. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks to ArabNet, our partner, and thanks to our sponsor, PayPal. Peace.